707, and today I'm going to talk about the Eflite Draco. This is going to be kind of like a review and my general thoughts about the airplane. At the end, it's going to be, you know, what I think about it in general in the lexicon of RC airplanes. What is it? Who's it for? All this good stuff. To start off with, I thought I would just talk about the things that they really got right about this airplane. Obviously, if scale detail is your thing, this is the scalest, most detailed airplane that you can imagine. It has every single bolt and nut and every little dimple that's on the real airplane is on this airplane. A couple of things that they really got right was obviously scale detail, but also the scale lights. The lights are probably one of my best, my most favorite thing about this airplane. Lights all over the place. Lights on the dashboard, lights at the end of the wings, blinking strobes, and you can control it all on the knob on one of your DX9s or DX8s or new NX radios. So that's pretty cool. When I think about this airplane, I'm trying to think about, like, who is this airplane geared toward? Because it is a one-off airplane. There's no other airplane like it in the whole world. Who's this built for, basically? It's going to be for someone who is a STOL fan, S-T-O-L, short takeoffs and landings. Someone that really is a big fan of Mike Patey, which I'm a fan. Not a huge fan, but I'm a fan. He's a really charismatic dude. Also someone that's a fan of E-flite. Now, I love most E-flite airplanes. They all fly so well. And this one has its good flying characteristics as well. So let's get into some of the things that are not so great about it. So guys, looking at this airplane, it's something that you just want it to be exactly what it is. Really fantastic, really scale airplane. So it does a couple of those things. It's really scale, and it's not really that great of a STOL airplane, believe it or not. So there's a couple of things that go into that factor. So I'm gonna kind of go off the cuff here. I don't have anything planned, I don't have any scripts or anything like that. This is just my flying experience with the airplane. And first off is the tail wheel. There was a big controversy about the tail wheel. There's these slider things on the back. Are the sliders supposed to move back? Are they supposed to be fixed in place? From the representative on RC groups, the tail wheel sliders are supposed to stay locked in place. So mine were loose. I had to glue them back in, and as you guys saw from my maiden video, my rear wheel broke off the very first landing that I had. It was a semi-rough landing, nothing major, but yeah, that was a bit of a concern. So I made a video on how to strengthen the rear tail wheel and how to get the most travel out of it, because it's a little capsizy. If you go into a turn, it kind of folds a little bit, so you want to stiffen it up and also make sure that the springs on each side are turning the tail the proper way. There's a lot of wacky things going on with the tail wheel, though, which I think they could have gotten right very, very easily with a little bit more effort. Now, I have heard that some of the newer Dracos that have come out come with a non-slidey sliders type of attachment in the back. So whether that's true or not, I'll have to check that out in the future. Another thing that I'm going to nitpick about is the landing gear. It looks great. It's made out of carbon. It's got these big fairings here. It's got some suspension and some big wheels. But it doesn't always add up to good landing gear. So what is going to be a good landing gear? What I look at is, in my past, I had the Turbo Timber or the Timber. And that was an airplane that you could do a touch and go, and you can roll across the grass for as long as you wanted and then just take back off. You can't do that with this airplane. There's some handling characteristics that come into play later on, but the way that the axle is mounted into the carbon fiber landing gear stance makes the wheel want to twist. So a lot of times, you know, I want to come in and I want to set one wheel down and just kind of roll along the ground and maybe set the other wheel down. Well, you can't do that with this airplane. Maybe there's some guys that can, guys that have strengthened their landing gear, but what ends up happening is we have the finger for that's the carbon bit that the axle goes into, and the wheel is attached to that. The wheel tends to twist that axle quite a lot. So when you go and try and put that one wheel down, it twists and catches and pulls the whole airplane down. So it's one of these things that you want to love this landing gear, and that's one of the things that you love about the Draco that just is kind of one of its downfalls. So another thing that I'm not really happy about with the Draco is the power system. The ESC, the Avian ESC, is perfect. The 400 kV motor is not. I feel like it's not powerful enough. I would have been happier with a 500 or even a 570 or 600 kV motor. The 400 kV motor just doesn't have enough punch. Sometimes when you're getting low and you need a little extra throttle, it just doesn't punch high enough. Now, I have flown this with a two-bladed propeller, which actually gave it a little more sting to your throttle when you wanted it. But the stock prop and the stock motor combination just doesn't give it that much power. We're talking about a quite heavy airplane when you have your 6,000 milliamp battery pack in the inside. It ends up being quite a heavy airplane. I'm not sure, I haven't really weighed it. I think it's around 10 to 12 pounds, right around there. And the 400 kV motor just isn't up to snuff. Okay guys, let's talk CG. And in my opinion, the CG on this airplane is too nose heavy. So when I'm flying my packs here, I fly a 4000 and a 6000, a 5500. When I'm flying the 4000 milliamp battery pack, I seem to fly better because there's not so much weight on the nose. And here's the reason why. Now, when you come in for a landing, if you have a very nose-heavy airplane, this is the nose, this is the tail, you come in for a landing and the nose is really heavy, and you want to do that stall landing where you come in and you land the tail first. If there's too much weight in the nose, it's not going to want to rotate the way it should if it has a proper CG. So I found that when I had the 4000 in there, I could actually rotate the airplane and set it down either in a tripod landing or a three-point landing, or landing tail wheel first, which is really cool. That's why you buy this airplane, right? You want that to happen. There's also a ferrite coil which prevents your battery pack from sliding all the way back, so I would recommend digging out the foam a little bit and shoving that ferrite coil for the ESC down into the fuselage so you can move that battery pack as far back as you need. As it comes stock out of the box, I feel like the elevator does not have enough throw, and that came into play when I was playing with the CG. I want maximum throw on my elevator so that when I do come in, that I can translate and move the pitch of the airplane to exactly where I want. So in my opinion, you should move the control surfaces to their maximum physically on your elevator. Okay guys, let's talk about flight characteristics, and one of the things that a stall airplane should have is very easy stall characteristics. That's not this airplane, so this can catch a lot of people out. It caught me out. I was doing something stupid with the airplane, but I did do a snap tip stall and crash this airplane. I did put it back together, obviously. So the stall in that situation was not the airplane's fault, but I have felt the edge of that stall in lots of my flights. I probably would guess I have about 30 flights on this airplane or so, right around there. So you have to be careful with this airplane because it can stall on you if you're not careful. Alright guys, so there's a big topic on the RC Groups forum about how to land this airplane, and you're either skilled or you're not skilled, or if you bounce the airplane you suck, and it's one of these things that it's a very different airplane to fly. Now, it does require some skill to land this airplane properly. I would say I can grease my landings maybe about 5 times out of 10. When you don't grease the landings and you happen to lay it down a little bit hard, the springs and the shocks are just springs. So every bit of energy that goes down into the ground comes back up off the ground very quickly. It bounces and you're back up into the air again. So that brings me back to that point about doing a touch and go, like running the tires along the ground for 100 feet and then taking it back off again. You can't do this with this airplane because you're either up or down, or you're up or you're touching or you're not, and it just does this. So and that's because of the landing gear, maybe the tires are a little bit hard. There's no rebound in the shocks because they're just springs. So it would be really nice to put a damper instead, because there's 2 shocks on each landing gear. It'd be nice to put a damper somewhere in there that would be a damper instead of a spring. I think that would really help this airplane out. I bet you there's some guys that have done it out there. Now, something that might catch some pilots out on this airplane, some people who are really into Horizon Hobby airplanes that have lots of AS3X programmed in it. This is one of the airplanes that has less AS3X programmed in than the standard Horizon Hobby airplane. So very minimal effect from the AS3X, which a lot of people like, and I like as well, because you get more of a feeling of control over the airplane rather than it being artificially smoothed out by the AS3X. So I think that the programming can be changed via your computer to just bump up the AS3X or bump it down or turn it off if you wanted to. I believe the forward programming you can do with this airplane. So that's pretty cool. So a big question a lot of you guys have is this plane worth the $600 asking price? And I'm wondering if it's gone up since this whole price increase on everything. In my opinion, I don't think it's worth the $600. I would be more comfortable with this airplane at about $550. It's only a $50 difference, but what you're getting for what type of an airplane it is, what it's used for, I think it's better at like a $550 range. It's expensive, so once you start flying it, this expense of it kind of fades away. You start to enjoy it. You don't really think about it, but it can be expensive. So, okay, guys. So if I had a magical crystal ball to make this airplane perfect, what would I do to the Eflite Draco to make it just 100% awesome right out of the box? Number one, strengthen and redesign the tail wheel. Most guys that I know online had the rudder and the tail wheel that were off like this, and it's molded into the upper tail wheel section. So we had to do some magic bending with the springs to get the tail wheel in line with the rudder. But strength is a huge issue for a STOL airplane of 10 or 12 pounds that's coming in, and we want to set it down on that tail wheel. So improve the tail wheel, number one. Number two, put a damper in the shock absorbers so that when you come in for a landing, all that energy, if you happen to get it a little bit wrong, isn't bouncing you straight back up into the air again. That's number two. Number three, we would like some softer wheels to help absorb and help out with those landings. And number four, I don't know if this is possible or not, but I would like to fly my Draco and run one wheel along the ground. And I'm sure there's gonna be some guys out there that'll be like, hey, look, I can do it. But I've had that happen where you're running along, you wanna put one wheel down, and the wheel that's touching the grass just twists like this and then pulls the whole airplane down, and suddenly you're doing the Dukes of Hazzard across the field. Okay, number three, what would I do to make this airplane even better? I would, number three, I would put at least a 500 kV motor in this airplane. Same thing that's gonna be in like the E-flite Cessna or the Trojan, those bigger airplanes that have a lot of oomph behind them. So I would sacrifice 1 or 2 minutes of runtime to have that extra bit of throttle when I need it. So not something that they can improve, but I would suggest that if you want to do those slower STOL landings, to move your CG back just a little bit. That's something you can do on your own, and obviously as modelers here, it is something that we experiment with all the time. Just be careful of that snap stall though. Well, hey guys, so I just got done editing the video for the one that you just saw about the Eflite Draco, and because I was just kind of going off the cuff, there's a few things that I missed that I kind of thought of as I was editing the video. And one thing about the Draco is that the engineering behind it is just amazing. There's a carbon rod system that goes from the nose of the airplane all the way down to the tail, which I was super happy to see something like that. That is actually translated to a couple other models that I've seen, one being the new Timber that just came out with the new front hatch design. I saw that there's 2 carbon spars that are inside the Timber. That is something that we've all benefited from because of the way they engineered this airplane. So really, really cool thing. The other thing is that even though the Draco is kind of a challenge to fly, challenging isn't always a bad thing. So it is fun to kind of like get this airplane to fly exactly how you want it to. It's just not easy. So like I said, it could be a negative and it could be a positive for some people. Some people want an easy airplane to fly. I tend to like planes are like that, but it has challenged the way I think about airplanes and how I think about flying this airplane, and it's kind of broadened my knowledge as well. So take that for what it's worth, guys. Really, it's still a very cool airplane, and I will be flying it probably this weekend. So I'll go back to the video. Thanks. Okay, guys, full disclosure here now. Number one, I'm not the best pilot in the world, so these are just my opinions, number one. Number two, I bought this airplane full out with my own money. It is so, in other words, Eflite or Horizon Hobby did not send this airplane for me. I feel like I have the liberty to pick out these little things about this airplane that are just things that are sticking points for me. So take that for what it's worth. All right, so some of you guys might be wondering, well, you know, Jeff, are you gonna keep the Eflite Draco? And the answer to the question for right now is yes. It's a pretty good airplane. It is built for what it's built for, and I want to keep like trying to bend the envelope of the flight characteristics and getting it into those super slow, super stolly landings that we all want from this airplane. So I'm going to experiment with moving that CG back a little bit and greasing those landings just with the stock landing gear as it is right now. So anyway, guys, I hope you found this review helpful. I feel like I'm going to tell you guys a lot of things that maybe sponsored people that get these airplanes for free aren't going to tell you, because who wants to bite the hand that feeds them, right? But even if Horizon Hobbies sent me this airplane for free, I want to say that I would still have the same opinion about this airplane. And I don't like to give criticism to an airplane without saying, here's what I think is wrong, and except here's what I think is going to make it better, because then we all benefit from that. And these are my honest thoughts about the airplane. Do I like it? It's pretty damn cool. So with that, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.